Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Starbase friends around the world. Astro Joe here for RGV Aerial Photography, episode number 107. We've got fresh ground images from yesterday and a flyover from this morning. I'll pass it on over to your host this week, Stephanie. Have a great show.
G'day from Australia, and welcome to our flyover. Today we've got guest commentators Kai. How you going, Kai?
Good afternoon, Stephanie. It's going to be a pleasure being here today, and I hope we find some interesting things.
Yeah, very much so. And we've got Ryan Hanson from Ryan Hanson Space with us as well, which is always good. How you going, Ryan?
Hey everyone, it's good to be here again. I know we're getting some images kind of fresh off the press here as we go, so we've already dug into some stuff, and there's a lot of interesting things to look at this week. So it'll be exciting to take a look and share all of those with you guys.
Okay, and with that, let's start here at Macy's as per usual, and start up here with the flame trench. There's some interesting developments going on here already with the actual flame trench. We've got some formwork going up with some fairly decent embeds in the corners here. So what do you make of this, Ryan?
Well, I think these embeds kind of indicate there's going to be a pretty substantive structure here at the end of the flame trench, which is starting to make us wonder if maybe we had the direction of the flame trench wrong to begin with, that instead of kind of blowing the exhaust towards Massey's, or I guess towards the U.S. side of the river, that they may actually be turning it around and actually having the exhaust blow out over the Rio Grande. So that's a little bit different than what we were initially thinking, but those embeds surely indicate there's going to be a structure at this end, and we really can't think of anything that would, require such a massive structure to go on this end, since in theory it would have just been the exhaust opening. So it's starting to look like that this may be where the Starship actually sits when it's on top of the flame trench.
So I believe we can see the top of the slurry wall here. And so all this structure's inside the slurry wall, which would be what you would expect to see. That's good to see. We can actually see some of the slurry wall finally. Pumping water out inside. So this is a nice straight down shot of that. Well done, team. Okay, so we can see the clamshell digger is still digging away at the slurry wall up here. Looks like quite a few sections have been finalised along here, and we've got this rig's been converted to a continuous flight auger now, and seems to be digging in this area, which indicates something big going in here. And personally, I think it might just be the water deluge system, but once again, it's only speculation. Okay, well, so still heaps of rebar to go in its big cages. Still plenty of work going on there. They've buried the conduits here. We can see them popping out though. We saw some risers in the earlier photos. You can see some popping out here and there. They're still not sure what this is, but more than likely it's a bunker.
Yeah, it looks very similar to kind of the bunker that they built over near the Sanchez site. So this would likely be the control systems for the new ship static fire stand.
The conduit's continuing up in this direction for whatever's up this way, I guess. Okay, and onto the methane tank. The methane farm, sorry. We can see some plumbing. We can see over the back this week, which is awesome. See the tanks are getting plumbed in. These hippos have had some more plumbing work done by the look of it. There's even some outlet over here.
Yeah, they've done a small amount of work there, but to be honest, it doesn't seem as much compared to, say, the flame trench. They seem to be, from what I can tell, actually focusing on getting that trench done. And as for the water deluge system idea, I do think those conduits that you were speaking of next to the image you're looking there, yeah, those conduits, I do think that would be going towards what will be a water deluge system. It just structurally and the layout of the area kind of makes sense.
So we've got some chilled liquid methane by the look of it outletting over here, heading towards the flame trench area. We have a new tank. Any ideas on this tank, Ryan?
I'm not entirely sure what this tank is going to be used for. It does look quite different than the rest. There's kind of a lot of extra bits on it. So we might have to wait to see, I guess, exactly what it's for. There are some pipes kind of heading over in that direction, but it's kind of unclear if those are going to be used with that tank or not. It's hard to see, I guess, the backside. There is a pipe that kind of appears to be turning out of the top of that tank and going down. But since we can't really get photos from that side, it's hard to see what that pipe is connected to exactly.
This photo doesn't quite show it either because of that tank. Let's see over here.
It's possible this could be like a. I don't think. Do we have a tank for the methane reclaim yet?
Well,
Is
there
that
was
maybe
speculation this system here was something to do with that.
okay?
Maybe not. But maybe not. Maybe that's reclamations over here. Okay, so looks nice and muddy. I've had lots of rainfall lately. So lots of bits of concrete here and there, as always.
And there is that new chunk of pipe there by that trailer, I guess by the yeah. So this is a new pipe that kind of seemingly showed up. We're not entirely sure what that would be used for, but its size would indicate that it's um, likely not related to the propellant system. The pipe is at least 4 times bigger than any of the other lines that we see for the propellant. So not quite sure what that would be for other than potentially a water deluge system. So we're going to keep an eye out for that. See if maybe it seems interesting that it would show up, I guess, at this time, considering the state of everything else. So it's possible that they may be building a tank soon, and that would be part of like an outlet to the tank. So in that case, maybe it makes sense why it shows up now.
Well, yeah, there's lots of infrastructure still to be installed with the water deluge systems, so that'll be good to keep an eye on that for sure. Okay, I'll head down here. We can see some work on the Lux side of things, and this whole junction area is getting developed here. It's a bit hard to tell exactly what the plumbing's doing here. I think we've already worked out. So that's a Lux line over here. It looks like the Lux lining is going into the hippos. And this is, I think this goes over the top. So this will be the liquid nitrogen line continuing straight through to over to the flame trench area. So it looks like we have our chilled liquid oxygen coming out here, and our liquid nitrogen, and the little one will be the high pressure gaseous nitrogen pipe, which is part of this 3-pipe system all the way through. So that's good to see happening.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. If you actually follow the pipe support stands and then the underground pipe network, you can almost track the path that they're taking as it goes up to the vertical tanks above that.
Yeah, very much so. Now, while we're talking about the flame trench earlier, we think this is going to be a bucket underneath the flame trench to divert the actual flame under the rocket itself, under the ship itself. So pretty sure there's 2 here. So 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6 of these cradles. And there's 6 slots in this system of steel here. And we can see there's this shiny area, which should be what gets welded into these slots here. They line up with that square there. And these are sitting, they're staged in the size they're going to be. So if we look at the angle here, that's spaced correctly.
Yeah, so those U-shaped pieces would be sticking, I guess, upright. So the vertical points would be sticking upwards. And yeah, those welds have likely, or the surface has likely been cleaned because they're going to be lifting those soon into one of those slots and starting to weld around it to make it rigid. So that should be the bottom of the bucket, presumably, where the hot gas would be deflected at the base of the trench. So from this point onward, it would kind of rise upwards, or they might actually just end the bucket at that point, and then just have like a concrete surface that acts as the floor, because there's gonna be like an upward slope as it kicks the exhaust outwards. So presumably by the time it hits the bottom of this bucket, a lot of the hot gas has been turned to like a water vapor with the deluge system. So it should be nothing but steam by the time it gets to this bottom portion.
I just want a better shot. This little angle at the top is a little bit interesting, and perhaps there's something to do with this plate perhaps marrying up to it. Just as a speculation again, there's not much change on this except these little kick-up points here. So this is still a little bit of a mystery. Okay, so that's all the flame train stuff. So we've got some concrete quickly while we're doing concrete. There's some concrete here, the car park, some clean-up concrete here, and some more concrete over here. So as always, as usual, concrete going ahead. Our tent here has had a bit of its roof section taken off, but not much seems to have changed inside still. Still got the 12 stands there for some mystery object going to be built in there. I don't know if there's anyone got any ideas what that might be.
It's interesting. It's kind of a ring structure. We've kind of seen those structures related to the vehicles, so it could be something for test stand related. I think we're still a little bit unclear exactly how the ship is going to end up on top of the flame trench, whether it's similar to the cryo stands where they kind of drive the SPMTs, over the concrete surface and kind of lower down and then bolt the stand to like the embeds, or if it's more of a structural thing like the orbital launch mount where they'll have to use a crane to kind of position the ship over the top of it. There's pros and cons to both of those items, or I guess methods of doing that. One is a little bit more mechanically intense to work around, but I have a feeling that given the location of where this structure is going up, that it is probably related to the test stand. Presumably, I guess whatever stand the ship is going to be on top of is likely what they're going to be building in here.
Okay, thank you. So the can crusher got moved from there down to here, and so they've concreted this pad, not sure what to call it yet, this test stand pad, whatever it's going to be, with the 5 big inlays in it, and the 10, I think it was 10 in the middle. It's a bit of a mystery. And down here we've got we saw some water pipe coming through. It hasn't been touched at all. So that's anything we've missed at Macy's. Anything else to say in here?
I'm just wondering if the construction for the thrust ramp might actually fit inside the concrete foundation that they're building at the end of the ramp.
In here?
Yeah, so if you look at the white curved frame that they're assembling, I'm wondering if that'll actually fit in there, because in that concrete there is actually a step down. It's only a slight step down and you probably can't see it, but there's a step down which is roughly about the same size as the current assembly for the white frame.
All that's going to get dug out. That's not the final floor right there. Yeah, because they're pulling the water. That's I believe it'd be a dewatering system is what they're doing, and there in the center is that blue pipe that kind of comes out. So I can't tell. It kind of looks like they've dumped concrete in here, but that is not the final floor. This is going to be dug down by a significant amount once they kind of get the formwork up here done.
Because remembering that I mean, the walls are actually that deep, but we don't expect the flame trench to be as deep as these are tall. We expect to be about maybe 2/3 the depth. Just as a guess. Interesting. Okay, Joe, got any questions or donations for Macy's, please?
I got a bunch of support. Our question bot broke after I went to go and test it. We got that through, but question bot is broke currently. Trying to get it fixed. But thanks, John Depker, for John Depker. Gotcha. Geez, sorry. Before the stream started, gifted 5 memberships. Coco Cats gifted 5 memberships. I wanted to thank Crane Man. We missed a $50 PayPal donation from Crane Man last week. John Dipker, $10. Who's ready to start slinging green with me? Love all y'all. Steve Coates, $1.99, couple bucks for the cause. Glenn Griffiths gifted a membership. James Wilson, $10 super chat. Choo choo. Jake Winlow gifted 5 memberships. Rocket Profit, $10 super chat. Here's to slinging some green and making some friends. Rocket Profit also gifted 10 memberships. Sorry, I'm just all over the place here today. And that's where we stand right now. Queue is clear.
Thank you very much. And with that, we might jump over to Sanchez then. We're going to ask for your patience a little bit today. I'm downloading as we're going with the RGV team. We've only just landed and the images are still being processed, so we're doing well to get through today.
These photos are amazing considering we were worried about the weather, and we've got some nice sunny photos to look at today.
Okay, let's start over this end. Nice. So pretty much the same old with the GC building, lots of things being staged. There'll be massive amounts of work going on in there to do with cryo plumbing. Not sure what's going on over here.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. It almost looks like they maybe painted those, and they've got them sitting on some stands to dry without, I guess, sitting on the ground.
I think maybe some more concrete in here again. Sorry, I don't mean to keep mentioning concrete. Now, this is interesting. They had this cut out for a long time, and now there's something going on there.
If you look at the top left before you zoomed in, there was a culvert laying in there, I believe. So
Okay, yep.
might be for drainage.
Yep, that's what that's going. Very good. Still no tent. Still no tent in here. I guess it'll get there one day. Oh, that's a different angle. Right, let's go into this area. So not much changed. There's another transport stand, but not much has changed in that area. Last week we noticed the scaffolding removed and the pieces on the end to activate the slides have been installed. Not much changed there. This is, we've seen this here before, we've still no idea what it is. It seems to be getting sides, so whether this is the top of a tank, it kind of looks like it may be. Looks like more parts for more
Might
of
be a
these big.
second one, yeah, second or third, for parts might be sitting there. So it at least looks like they're going to be making multiple of these.
So whether it's some kind of, doesn't really look like a jig, does it? But it looks more
No,
like the.
it
More like
definitely looks like the top of a tank, which we had discussions about more vertical tanks at Starbase, but it definitely looks like it could be the top of some tank, whether it could be a water tank or something else, whether it's destined for the orbital site or maybe at Massey's. Not entirely sure yet.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that develop.
Moving on to test engine install stand for ships number 3. So it's powering along. Hang on, number 3? Yeah, it's number 3, isn't it?
Believe, yeah, number 3.
And I'll find our ground shots. This is a new little mystery device. Give 1 second. In our ground shots, we got this view of it, and that's the only view we got of it, really. And it's a bit of a mystery. It looked like a circle underneath, but looking at the aerial photo, It's must be
Yeah, there's a
some kind
circle.
of.
Looks like it might
Oh,
be
there's
plugged on the
the.
top.
Yep.
Trying to think if it's just my imagination, but it kind of almost looks like that it's sitting on top of a circular ring on the ground. I can't quite make it out if it's a shadow.
Yeah, if you look at the shadow, it does look like it is sat on top of a circular ring.
Yeah, try that one. Oh yeah,
there we
there's
go.
definitely a ring there. Yeah, so we're seeing the shadow of the ring to the left of it, given the sun angle. So, and I guess strangely enough, it looks like it's about 9 meters. But is it just me or does it seem off center?
It does. That just caught my eye as well. It does look up center like there's going to be
It
another
might
one
just be
over
the
here.
lighting. Might have to measure it later, but could just be the lighting making it look that way. But definitely looks like it could be some sort of a jig or a test article.
There's a photo just for it. So yeah, you're right. There is a circle there. Okay, where are we on to? Okay, so and there's this new little thing over here too. Some pipes. We have some pipes. They're kind of a little bit on a large scale, which could indicate some kind of water deluge system. But
It's possible.
they're
They look
going to
like
be
they've
part
been
of.
here quite a while. I'm not sure if maybe those are scraps left over from building the first deluge system for the orbital mount. Maybe they pulled those out of storage somewhere, or because yeah, they don't look new. They've been weathered a little bit, but yeah, that white structure is interesting, given that there's a whole pile of beams there to the right. They're likely building more than one of them, so that'll be
1,
interesting
2,
to
3,
see.
4, 5. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so there should be, I think, what, eight of them on that piece. When it's well, to continue its current state, there should be 3 more there.
Yep. So yeah, it does look like enough for at least a couple of them anyway. Okay. So that's that area. So next big interesting thing would be the tower section, which they seem to be moving along with.
Gotten quite a bit done
And
on this section here, and they've got parts. Looks like it's staged for the actual top. We got a couple of the columns and a couple of the other more complex truss features are kind of sitting nearby. So probably trying to work out a good process flow. It's unclear if it's the same guys, building this tower as the first one, but there's always gonna be a learning curve when you've got new workers. So probably building this more uniform section first to get an idea of the process, and then they'll probably start here on the top section since it's a little different. And I believe the other tower sections should be showing up, I believe, early this coming week to the port of Brownsville. So we'll have to see what they do with those, if they bring them all over at one time, or we might end up seeing a whole bunch of those on the next flyover sitting over here in this area.
Oh, I definitely think we will. The ETA for those tower segments is they're meant to be in Brownsville by tomorrow.
so it looks like they've just for something new, they've cut up more concrete over here. Looks like they're pretty well finished with the drainage in this area anyway. In this area. and over this area. So it looks like the drainage is pretty well complete, this whole area. And they've just got the bit of drainage to finish off around this area just to get it, I guess, out to the wetlands. Which is good to see, especially with all the rain. They'll be needing that drainage. It makes you wonder how the water all piles up in these trenches when they haven't got the outlet finished yet. So we've got all these pads ready to go for the tower sections. I think we've got, was there 7 of 9 currently, I think? Oh, we've just switched over to the to the scrapyard area. So have they put up a barrier here? Was just a line saying scrapyard? So there's a ring getting scrapped. I still haven't scrapped these items yet. The old hot stage ring simulations pieces, I think.
Yep, get the booster part and the ship, and then the test article for the hot stage ring. Actually, go back to that photo, Stephanie. There was a pile of vaporizers on the ground. Were those? Yeah, bottom left. Are those the ones that were at the orbital site, or did they move them here?
No, these have been sitting here. They've been collecting here.
Okay.
Okay, not much changed in the power generation area. I've got some ladders. There's a little bit of work going on here. They've moved that ladder was over here, I'm pretty sure. Now it's over there. A bit more of this infrastructure here. Their little swimming pool. They're going to fill up with diesel. If they ever get a diesel leak, we'll have a nice little swimming pool full of diesel. Nothing new here in this little area. Okay, what's going on in this area? This whole well area is much the same. This is where they had horizontal boring going across to the village. That's still going to have some work in the future, I would imagine. Okay, what's going on over here? Not much by the look of it. We've got the ship's going to the launch site. This crane's being disassembled. The top of it has gone. You're saying, I think BJ was saying the top had been taken off with the... Oh, hang on. No, it hasn't. Just ignore that. Sorry.
So do we know if this crane is, I guess, leaving Starbase, or is it going to another project nearby at one of the sites?
That's a good question.
Would be
Because
a good item to have at Massey's for lifting some of those heavy structures.
this one has some kind of strange lease arrangement with SpaceX and Lieberman, I believe. Not Lieber, sorry.
Should be Buckner, I think, right?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. How's the tank going? It's been...
Yep.
Tank's getting
A few
taller.
rings smaller.
No sign of this thing getting disassembled yet.
That'll probably be coming soon, I imagine. They seem to be kind of using as much area as they can to build stuff. So I imagine once all of these operations are moved into the Mega Bay 2, or I guess Ship Bay, as some people are calling it now, they probably will take this stand down.
See, we can't see the parking lot. Hang on. No, we don't have a shot of the parking lot yet. Okay, just quickly, Joe, is there any questions on donations for Sanchez, please?
I got some support here. N1 Bug gifted a membership. Getcha194 gifted a membership. John Depker, $2. Did somebody say sunny photos? That would be cute. Mule Skinner Films, $1.99 super sticker. Thank you for the support. Rice Conley joined as RGV flight supporter. Thank you for the membership. Smurf Trooper gifted a membership. And John T just wanted to make a statement that tower sections are now due on the 19th.
Thanks for that update.
So if we have a... Go on.
No, you're right, go.
Okay, so if we have a quick look at the tower stands, do we actually have most of the components for the top of the tower? Because I'm having a look at it, I can see 3 legs for the top of the tower, and also the... I'm not sure what it is, but it's the long beam that goes on top of it for the actual pulley.
Yep, so we've got that piece there, and then down just to the left of it is the shorter column that the horizontal beam lays on as it goes across. So that transfers the loads, I guess, to the back of the tower, kind of somewhat equally, you could say. So those are the major components there. There is a smaller column section that I have not, I guess, been looking for. It could be here somewhere in the in the pile of parts, but I guess I don't see it right now. But then there's a little bit of a truss section that kind of builds on top of the horizontal beam to kind of encase the pulley system, and those parts would be relatively small. So there's a lot of parts here that they could at least start installing that next section. We have a lot of cross beams as well, a lot of the diagonals. So they could get a significant start on that top section with what they currently have here, it seems.
Yep, that's be good to see that section get put together too soon. Thank you. Okay, with that, I think we can move over to the build site. Seem to be going quickly today. Hot off the press, you might say, literally.
The expansion is continuing.
And getting more and more mysterious as it goes. It looks like we have a window section through here still. And it's not going to taper or anything by the look of it, considering how the Z-girts are mostly being put in.
Yep, that's a possibility.
Yeah, the vendors and what seems like the real building aren't going to be quite equal to each other.
So I must be a little bit disorientated here. This section was concreted last week. I thought it was this section, but this section's getting its vapor barrier, so it's the next bit to be concreted.
It's interesting that they're, I guess, pouring concrete up here where there aren't any of the columns, but down below they've started putting, the rest of the building up, and they haven't poured the concrete yet. So down to the left here, so a little bit of vapor barrier kind of poking out, but yeah, they haven't poured this concrete yet. So not a huge deal. They can probably get the concrete in there regardless, but looks like certain areas are maybe outpacing others in terms of the parts on site. They're probably building what they have parts for when they have the parts for it. So otherwise, they've got parts that are just laying around taking up space.
That wasn't the photo I was looking for. Hang on. So over this side, we've got this mystery piece of concrete. I've got a ground photo I'm just trying to find.
Isn't that the same, I guess, angle that we had before, where when they sawed the concrete, they kind of left that funny angle to it. I think there may be something important under that they're trying to avoid.
Quite possibly.
Oh,
when you got a sec, when you got a sec, go back to the aerial photos.
So yeah, just quickly, that angle piece of concrete has massive bolts, rag bolts we call them, bolts hanging out, ready for something fairly substantial to be mounted here.
that is interesting. Kind of implies maybe the front here is going to have some sort of an angle to the building, possibly.
Or a nice big sign. They're kind of overbuilt for a nice big sign, but I mean, they do have strong winds. It does make a strange angle here.
Because I don't remember any large footings in that area being poured. So I can't imagine it would be too structural, but could be wrong on that. But
So one
kind of
thing we
does
have
imply that
noticed
it would
about
come
Dunkirk-
across. It kind of implies it would be part of the building because it would. They're on the right side of the frame. You have your exterior wall, and if you kind of follow that straight across to the bottom of the diagonal, it kind of meets up. The bottom here. If you go all the way over to the right, so that kind of implies it would line up with the building at least.
Yeah, and you can actually see some footing in front of the orange cherry picker, just below your mouse, a little bit to the left.
Oh, yep, that telehandler there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can see where the wall of the building will be, and it would most likely be a lightweight part of the building. As for that angle on the actual front of it, I'm wondering if that's to assist SPMTs exiting the actual assembly yard easier.
So it looks like a doorway through there even. So one of the things that has been talked about in show and tell is that it stops movement of articles coming through to the front here. But so do these, it shows that's going to be solid wall. This looks like an opening. So perhaps this alleyway, they'll be running pieces up and down this alleyway to eventually come out to the bays. So it's been interesting to see how that all pans out. And what this little area here sort of means a bit complicated to come in through here. Would they be using SPMTs to move these sections, or they'd just be on little mobile transport stands that they could push around with the smaller machines?
Most likely, go on.
Yeah, it's kind of a good question. I mean, if they're going to build the assemblies the same way that they used to, they could probably use the same methods as before, which I think they use a lot of like forklifts or telehandlers to kind of shuffle the items around inside. Given that this is a little bit more of a professional setup, they may actually have some different equipment that would push the equipment around. I don't think they would necessarily use an SPMT, but I suppose if the assemblies get large enough, if they, for instance, stack a nose cone on top of a payload, section, then they may have to jump up to some heavier duty equipment to kind of move stuff around in there. But that is kind of a good thought about that angled section being kind of like a funnel for several of the assembly lines to kind of exit the building. Originally, I had thought they might have a lobby up in this front corner, but given that we have the newer information of the office building going on the other side of the building, I'm not sure they would actually put a lobby here on this end. So yeah, a little confusing. We'll have to see, I guess, what they do when they get closer to the end there, what becomes structural and what's maybe more of a facade.
And that, speaking of the facade, it's continuing along here with iron posts being put in. So a couple of reasons for that. I wouldn't want to take the cladding down here because this would actually be currently production in here at the moment, given that Tent 3 has disappeared. So we know there's jigs and everything in this section for the nose cones. So the nose cone Those kind of assembly will be going on right now in here. And so they won't want to take the cladding off. But also I thought maybe that this may be an additional thought, and these posts that are on this section of the building may not be engineered to hold another roof section up. Like this section over here, the vertical posts are designed to have an extra piece of roof weight on it as well. So that's an interesting development.
As quickly as SpaceX kind of changes their mind on things, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case here, where this front addition was kind of a spur of the moment decision, and that's why it's being constructed the way that it is.
And I think it still looks like it tapers, does it? Down here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with I noticed in the previous image you were showing, it definitely tapers.
Well, that is interesting. It does look like it gets skinnier.
I guess to follow the road, there might be an easement, like a rule that I have to stay so far off the highway here.
Oh yeah, setbacks.
The road bends. Okay, let's go to the bays. Start with this bay.
Making good progress on that stand.
Yep, we've got lots of concrete.
Yeah, it seems like since last week they've actually started they've started putting up the wall supports for the back of that ring stand there.
Yep.
It's very similar to what they have in the first Mega Bay for the boosters, where they've got those kind of wire cages to keep people out of there, so they don't accidentally go back there.
Yeah.
We've got another little building on the side here as well. Can we see the ship? Oh, we can see the ship. There we go. Ship 29. We can just see it here. Just see the nose cone there. And on its stand down there. Is that a stand there? What's that?
Looks like a platform of some kind, maybe.
Is it temporary scaffolding?
That's what it kind of looks like.
More scaffolding for, like the high bay. The ships seem to attract scaffolding. We've been following development of this rack going up and down here. It appears to be just pipes.
One thing I just wanted to point out, we do have an overlay on the stream on YouTube showing ship 28 being destacked from booster 10. So we've kind of been tracking that this morning. They pulled back the ship QD, rotated the arm out recently, and so looks like they're in the middle of destacking right now. So ship 28 appears to actually be going to pad B. The SpaceX crane has hooked up to the 2-point lifter, I believe. So we should be expecting to kind of see it roll in that direction and possibly end up on top of pad B. So we'll keep an eye on that and I guess see what happens.
Yep. We also, I'm not sure if we do, but I'm pretty sure we have some road closures for Tuesday or Monday. But I've got to verify that.
Okay, another development of the Mega Bay 2 is they've finished the facade up the top here. There's still a little bit of flashing to finalise the top here, and they've clad the elevator shafts. I'm still not sure what these lines are. There's speculation they could be cracks. We do know, thanks to people like Dave Avery, that these came as a double panel together, the two-story, and these sections just here came as single-story sections. So hence they could take this one section out like this for access. So it's not sure about those cracks. And moving back to the aerial, we can see these elevator shaft tops. Interesting they haven't finished that one piece in both of them. Well, that's anything.
Wonder if that'll be some sort of like an access hatch, because it kind of looks like it's framed out. Oh, well, that could just be the support. Yeah, I think that's just a support beam. They may be using that to gain access inside of it so they can work on some of the other framework, possibly. Doesn't quite look intentional given the height difference on either one.
Okay, we've got de-stacking going on. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, look inside the Mega Bay 1, and it's like, wah, we can't see in there.
Yeah, the door is the new item, and you can actually see it looks like they've started putting the trim at the bottom to kind of seal in. So you'd expect that to go all the way to the top of the doorway. That way they have a kind of a weatherproof seal for that door. And they are framing in the top here to kind of hide the door when it's fully brought up. So, yep, there's there on the right.
It is a massive shame for us because we might not be able to get as many photos from inside there as we'd like to, but I'm sure all the workers in there would quite enjoy not being.
So, Ryan, you're saying the height of the boost
face by gusts of wind.
Is about that line there?
What was that?
The height of the booster with its hot stage ring on its transport stand on top of the SPMT would be about as high as that line there?
I believe it's somewhere in there. I'd have to look back at some other photos, but yeah, they've left enough room for the hot stage ring on top of the booster. But this is probably a sign that the boosters aren't going to be getting any taller anytime soon, since they are kind of limiting themselves now with this door. They could always take the door off and make it taller if need be, but the boosters should not be growing in height. And I guess one other thing I'll mention, I don't want this to be too big of a tangent, but may have figured out why they actually tilt the booster grid fins when they exit the bays now. And it has to do with the orientation of the boosters, because previously they would slide the boosters into the mega bay with the grid fins. I guess one set of grid fins would go in first, and then the opposite side would be kind of out in the open, and they would go in last. Now they move the boosters in and out, basically rotated 90 degrees. So the widest part is the grid fins themselves. And the turning of the grid fins doesn't actually make the boosters any skinnier, but what it does is allow the SPMT driver to have a clear view of where the grid fins are when they are moving in and out on the stands. Because as we've seen, if you take a photo straight down on the grid fins, they basically become invisible. So turning them to the degree that they have been turning them actually makes them look like just like a black box, like a rectangle. So they can actually very clearly see where those grid fins are. So that might be our answer as to why they turn them the way that they do. And they are limited on the orientation of the booster based on the equipment that they have inside the mega bay. So when you see the grid fins turn, that's likely why they're doing that. It's just so they don't run into the wall with the grid fin.
Another nice shot of ship 30 and 31. Looks like ship 30. Hang on, where was it? Ship 30 doesn't have its nose cone lift points as far as I know anymore. But ship 31 still does. And while we're in this little area, there's a crane being disassembled. Where was this one, Ryan?
Was
that the one inside Mega Bay 2?
It might be, yeah.
Okay. So we've already been there, but we can see how that looks now from the ground as well. Looking very impressive. And you can see the window there. And we've noticed a difference in the width of these posts. I'm not sure that indicates anything in particular. Okay, back to the aerials. They've laid down the big yellow crane as well, which was on the outside. There we go. There's a photo of the... So I'm jumping around a bit. I'll come back to that. So the ring yard's not a ring yard anymore so much as a alley, I guess. Like we've noticed a couple of booster sections rolled in, booster 14 sections rolled to the Mega Bay 1, and they weren't staged at all in the ring yard. They came straight out of the factory. So we think ring yard is a thing of the past, which the ring watchers aren't overly impressed with. But I think they'll adapt. We'll see them from time to time like this getting staged and getting transported through here on like cameras like Rover 1, etc. So it's not the end of the world, but yeah, it's definitely going to limit our view. A thing I was just curious about just a sec ago was whether the turntables have been installed in the Mega Bay 2, which looks like they haven't yet.
Yeah, when it comes to the ring yard, they, depending on the shape of the building, I have no idea. It looks like it extends a little bit further than we had initially thought. So it's possible that they will store those inside now. There may be an area where they store them inside. There may be a small area that they use to place them outside, but in theory they should be building them essentially to order as they're required, rolling them in, stacking them in order to be as efficient as possible and produce as much as possible. They don't really want hardware laying around, so I wouldn't be surprised if we technically don't see any like completed sections sitting outside for weeks.
I think it was to do with quality control as well. With the sun shining on one side, it changes the shape of these sections. That's 90% of the reason why the door's here. So leaving them outside is not ideal. Once you get them inside, it would take a number of hours for the steel to readjust to be uniform temperature and shape. Apparently the amount of movement in these steel is quite significant.
Yeah, a lot of the moves that they've been making with the doors and especially the moving things inside definitely has a lot to do with the quality control. But it's been pretty impressive to see what they've been able to build kind of out in the open up until now anyway. So I think the quality will only get better now that they are able to control things a little bit better.
It
And
was
there's your
always
parking lot.
amazing. Go on.
There's your parking lot up there. We can have a decent look at that now.
Yeah, it's always amazed me from day one how they SpaceX build rockets out in the paddock, literally in a paddock, whereas you see over at other like NASA and so on, they've got their clean rooms. But it's good to see with the door and that now they're starting to go that way as the development continues on and things get iterated to more and more to the final product of the Starship. And yeah, the car park, looks like this is where the multi-level parking lot is definitely going, which we already knew. Drilling has started.
Makes me wonder if they will pull up the parking lot after they drill, or if they're just going to leave, I guess, this layer as the bottom level, and have the piles, take the load of everything above it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, so far they're just going through the concrete. I guess they must break out a bit of concrete for the drill to go through. I'm not sure how that drill would handle concrete.
Yeah, I think that's just it's actually asphalt in there, I believe. So it's fairly, easy to kind of pull that up. it wouldn't be very difficult even if they wanted to do that after building some of the portions.
I lost the photo, sorry, I know that one will do. I see what you mean. There's a bit of asphalt, yep.
Looks like there's maybe some markings in various places. Seems to be some orange paint in a couple of places.
Yeah, the engineers, whatever, with their map, with their plan would be out there, because these piles would have to be fairly accurate, I'd imagine. Oh, there it is. We appreciate your patience today with the photos. So we've just got them hot off the press. So we're seeing for the first time as well as you all. So it is some weeks. But they're awesome photos anyway from the team. Thanks, Team RGV. We did really well this week.
I guess that gives us another look at that front area with the diagonal wall, with what that kind of looks like. Yeah, it does kind of indicate there might be a door right there. Kind of a chunk of concrete right there. Not sure what that is.
Might just be a bit temporary. There's conduits too, we believe, coming up. Or was there? Or just bolts? I thought someone mentioned conduit coming up. I can't see conduit, only bolts there.
There might be some conduit right there. I can't tell if it's just a shadow. No, actually to the right. There, it looks like there's a nope. Be to the two pieces of wood. Draw a line between the top of them. There's what appears to be, they kind of look like bolts coming up, but they actually look like it might be some conduit. There's kind of some black circles indicating there's some shadowing on them, but that could just be bolts too, because I see a similar effect on some of the other ones as well.
Yeah, that looks like a round conduit there.
It does, yeah. There's kind of the same effect happening up to the top right though too, on a couple of them, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah. And if we zoom out just a little bit, if we look at the width of the concrete footing gap, we can actually compare it to the paint marks on the floor next to it, and it is the perfect size to get parts out.
So yeah, maybe a bit of a doorway through here.
Yeah, the path you just took with your mouse does seem like it. I don't think they would go through the top part there. That looks like it gets a little skinny.
Yeah.
But yeah, this looks like it would definitely be a turn out into an area for sure. So we may actually, I mean, that diagonal wall may end up actually being the glass wall that everybody's been looking to see.
Could very well be. Okay, the other side of Star Factory, we think is the new office building area, and they've where is it? There's a pump in here somewhere. They've been pumping water. Perhaps they've got rid of that pump. They've been pumping water out of this area. Oh, there's a big sinkhole. Let me get a ground shot. Hang on. Yeah, here we can see the pumping water out.
Oh, yep. That's the dewatering system, I believe.
Yeah, there's the pumps over there. Yep. They're dewatering the area. So from the area, and there's some, we think this is some old electrical has been removed. You can see a nice little chunk out of it up here where something's grabbed it to pull it out of a conduit, I'd imagine. Looks like a bowl of mum's spaghetti. Reminds me of an Eminem song. But I'm having trouble finding that pump system here. I think it might have already been removed.
So there's the
it hasn't.
black. Yeah, there's a black pipe Kind of goes off at a funny angle. And it looks like there's a bunch of, oh, those are the pumps back there. Kind of the top left, I think is what you see. There's the red. Yeah, right there. Because
Gotcha.
those
Yeah.
are connected to all those pipes.
Yep, I can see that now. Yep.
Might
Yeah, they just
indicate a little
follow
bit
that
of the
path.
footprint of the building, given where they're pulling the water out from.
There's a lot of groundwork type activity going on here, like this whole here, because I think this area has some. Remember when they were building the Star Factory, there was some sinkholes as well they were having to deal with. In this area here, there was one here particular, another one in here. Perhaps they're having to deal with that as well in this new area over here. We do know there's lots of water underground here, obviously. And what? There, concrete. That looks like permanent concrete. What? That's
Yeah, it looks like a footing.
but strange angles again.
Yeah, this building looks like it's going to kind of hug the corner between the highway and the road that kind of comes down from the top left. I forget the name of that street, but yeah, it looks like they're putting in some of the footings for that building. I would expect this building to have an elevator in it, given its height. I think what they say was it like 6 stories.
Yeah, something like that. It's a multi-story. Yeah. San Martin Drive. It seems like something I should know. But yeah, it does seem to be hugging that shape. It's a kind of a strange shape all over. It's like a U shape. And still no word on. Oh, there was. This has been delayed till June, I believe, the court hearing for this little bay. Okay, let's go look over the village here. We've got some nice roadways going in, finally. And where that GC building's now more of this tiny home for we think for the contractors.
Every time I see the village, it amazes me with how much it's expanded. Last time I was down there for the first orbital flight, I remember driving through the village, and it's about twice the size now as it was just almost a year ago now. It's pretty crazy.
The green empty spots seem to be disappearing slowly. There was one or two over here gone. Excuse me, over the last couple of weeks. So they must be purchasing more and more of these blocks here and there as the people are becoming willing to sell them or whatever. Still heaps of building on every single site now. There's block they're doing either groundwork or foundation work or building. Okay, let's try and look at that area there. So they've still only flattened this, haven't really done anything substantial in here yet, except for that building. I think that might be new, a bit more car parking. It looks like another. Is it a transport or is it a patient transport? Oh, there's the ambulances. Got our hovercraft area. And our crane yard. All seems to be about No, we had the Pez dispenser box out, but it's back in the building now on a ground shot here. Here we can see it back inside the actual building. There's real no indication still. We get asked in show and tell what gets done in here, and well, not much that we know of. We know the press pit, for instance, the press parts for the press pits were assembled in here, and it houses the Pez dispenser, which seems to have its door open here as well.
Yeah, it looks like they have a plastic tarp or something over the door currently, because I don't think it technically has a door that shuts. I think it just has a hole that they plug up with a tarp.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I
Yeah.
think we've any other anything else to point out in the build site, guys?
I think that's a lot of the major stuff.
We're going to miss
Yeah.
little things here. There'll be something on the ground we've missed. There'll be some little thing somewhere here or there we always tend to miss. But it's a bit difficult when you're only given we're seeing for the first time, so YouTube and everyone, we're all seeing this for the first time. We did now this bit of the building, sorry, we did miss this. It's just for aesthetics, is that correct? And will it have the same thing across the front here like McGregor does to square off the end of the building here?
Yeah, I think the idea with that is it's essentially building up like a false wall. It's supposed to mainly make the building look more square from like a side perspective. But what's interesting with this is that it's, I guess, on this side of the building. I wouldn't imagine that they would build a kind of a false wall or a false facade here on this side of the building, because it's not going to be visible from the highway. It would only be visible if there wasn't, I guess, a building. Yeah, so there it is. It'd only be visible from, I guess, presumably the old ring yard, which, if they are putting a building up right there, doesn't quite make a whole lot of sense why they would have that, I guess, that wall up there, because there's really nothing to be seen if there's a building there. So, a little interesting. It might indicate something about the building, I guess, that's filling in the area between this kind of peninsula that they're building and the original Star Factory building. So have to keep an eye on that. But I think, yeah, they would presumably have that come across the front too, depending on what they're actually going to have in that front area.
Okay, Joe, we got any donations and questions, please? We don't have many questions today. Let's see some questions, please.
Indeed, I want to thank some support. Mike Smith donating $20 super chat, and the mighty Don Don gifting 5 memberships. Thank you very much. Got a question from James Wilson. Once the factory is fully up and going, how much of all this, the assembly yards, will be moved inside, and will this free up a lot of the area for other projects?
What do you think, Ryan?
I think that's probably accurate. Can you repeat the last part of that? I heard the first part, but not the last part.
Sure, yeah. Once the factory is fully up and going, how much of all this, the assembly yards, will be moved inside, and will this free up a lot of area for other projects?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on that a little bit when we were talking about like the front area and the ring yard. I think it's safe to say that they will probably have some sort of an internal ring yard, but they really shouldn't have a ring yard if they are, I guess, building things as efficiently as they want to. Um, they really shouldn't have more than a couple of rings on standby at really any given time. That they shouldn't have 20 plus ring segments ready to be stacked if everything is operating how they want to. So I would think that we're probably not going to see like an outdoor ring yard. It's going to be internal to the building if there is one. So it's kind of disappointing. It's going to make tracking, I guess, what vehicles are getting built a lot more difficult. But it should allow them to produce vehicles a lot quicker with this factory.
Roger that. Thanks, 55 Chevy Guy Steve, for gifting 5 memberships. Henry Blackburn has a question. Do you guys think the site behind the Star Factory will be a new launch control building and have a similar design to the one at Kennedy Space Center?
An interesting thing about that office building, let me find the photo of it, is that this space faces the launch site, I believe.
It does, yep. So it's possible. I'm not sure if. So we know during the first launch that they didn't have anybody at the build site. There's nobody at Stargate, at least that we're aware of. We believe that all personnel were at the Ad Astra school where they built a command center there. And so that's where a lot of the footage from Mission Control was actually from that building. Now we know for IFT2, they actually did have people in Stargate. We've seen especially the recap footage, and then Kathy, I forget her last name. I thought it was Leaders. She was actually in Stargate during the second launch, so we know that they're at least comfortable having people at Stargate. Now I know this building would be quite a bit closer, so it's maybe a question of what their safety margins are for having people closer to the launch site. It's possible they could have a mission control in that building. I think one of the theories of kind of shifting the buildings the way that they are is so that they could eventually take over Stargate and then repurpose that land for either another mega bay or some other larger building. So Stargate, the duties that it currently has, which seems to be like more of a telemetry or video focused location. It seems like they may repurpose that and put into this new building. So if they do that, then I think it's probably safe to say that they might have personnel inside that building during launches, and that would be pretty cool to see maybe multiple mission controls in that building. Who knows? They may be able to do something for the 39A starship from here in Starbase. Not sure how that would work out, but it's possible.
Very well. I want to thank John Dipker for a $10 super chat and also congratulate him on landing a new job. His message states, off topic, but I can't help but share. I aced my applications process, so next month I start my new job. I'm going to Mars, not the planet, though.
Congratulations, John.
And Cinti is asking about the new mystery part with the thick steel plates. Are there any aerial shots of that? I asked for context. Not sure. It was Sanchez by the fence, and they were using an outdoor bridge crane to move it.
Yeah, that was the triangular structure that we looked at here a little bit ago.
Right.
Appears like it could be some sort of a jig for doing some kind of test. It makes me kind of wonder if they're going to put like a piston on that triangular structure and pull up or down on like a ring segment like this might sit on top. Not entirely sure yet. It seems like they would maybe hang a piston downwards from that top part and maybe pull up on something below to stress a test article. But we'll have to wait and see what else they add to this structure. Yeah, presumably attach something inside there.
It's built extremely strongly. There's some very thick steel going on here, and the way it's gusseted out like this and all, 4-box section of steel, that's going to be very, very strong, whatever it is. Okay, Joe, any more questions?
My cue is clear. We are good to proceed to move on to the next section.
Are we ready to go to the launch site?
Let's go for it.
Yes, indeedy.
So pre-destacking, there's ship 28 nicely up on top. Let's see if we can find the suborbital side.
The sunlight in this angle is quite sci-fi. Gives it a nice vibe.
Okay. One thing we noticed in the ground shots, they've taken the cover off the quick disconnect on here, which is a good indicator that ship 28 is coming here.
Yeah, that looks like it may well be Monday. On Monday, there is an 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. Closure, so there could well be a static fire then.
Looking nice and ready for a ship.
See, the crane is in its usual position for lifting a ship, so it's another good indicator that a ship is going to be moving over here. And then we've got the 2-point lifter that they moved here over to the suborbital side, so on its new vertical stand. So
Yeah, RGV's team got a nice ground shot of that 2-point lifter here, and the way it sits on the stand. For some silly reason, I had it sitting another way, but anyway, it looks good like that. Can't quite make out the lift points, but they're just in there.
yep, that would be the ball right there. And then you've got the padded braces kind of just below it, or the one side, the white there, and then you kind of see the back side of the one over here on the right. Yep. So these stands are actually, this is a really nice stand. I like that they did this a lot, because otherwise they pretty much had to disassemble the lifting jig every time they go to lay it down, and it's just a kind of a nightmare. It slows things down. So this is really nice that they came up with a stand for this thing.
A later edition. A lot of bins up here. This is going to be curious what all these bins are for. Something big's getting deconstructed. And suborbital tank pump. No, I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, something looks like they might be getting disassembled. Here they are here, lined up. I guess there's not as many as I thought. Anyway, there they are.
Yeah, there is quite a few there. But to do with lifting jig, it's going to be quite nice to see how quickly they can actually get that set up and have ship 28 on the test stand.
The only thing I wish they would do, it seems like in the past when they've lifted the ships on and off the engine installation stand outside, is that they've kept the flaps closed. Which the forward flaps, it makes sense, because otherwise the jig can't actually function properly, but the lower flaps they've also closed, which has made it the center of gravity not exactly in the center of the ship. So when they pick it up, you see it actually tilt to one side, and that's because the weight of the flaps and the tiles causes that off center of mass. So I wish they would leave the lower flaps open, because it would make setting the ship down a lot easier. So we'll have to keep our eyes out when they move 28 over here, if they actually leave the aft flaps open, or if they close them. I'd really be interested to know if there's a reason why they do that.
Okay, so the little bit of concrete still to go in here. Looks much tidier now, all this area. Now it's all concreted. Looks like the security hut. There was speculation the security hut might get bigger, but I'm not sure about that now. Looks pretty well finished.
Are the barriers there to the left, are those new? That are kind of at an angle? Yeah, those ones, because I know the top ones are mounted on top of the wall, but those lower ones look like they are maybe temporary. I guess I don't remember seeing those before. but that would make it look a lot nicer from the street when you're kind of pulling up and looking through the opening.
Yeah, for sure. Looks much neater.
Yeah.
I wonder if they
go on.
can you go? Yeah, when you're done with this here, Stephanie, we'll go back to that aerial. I'm trying to figure out on the top of by the SpaceX sign. There's some tabs on the back of the beam that almost look like they're possibly. Is that for electrical? That is for electrical. Okay, never mind. Yeah.
Just junction boxes.
Yep.
Oh, they might be the transformers for the. It's that high voltage neon on the front of them.
Yeah, I was just wondering if they were going to put like some additional support on the back of these letters so that the thrust, during launch doesn't cause a massive wind storm to come through there. So that'll be something that we can wait for the next launch.
There's a nice view through the front door here, somewhere along here. It looks nice and neat in there now. One second.
Yeah. As for when they're loading, let's say, ship 28 in this instance
Back to the
onto the
left.
test stand, it's probably they probably fold the wings in because of crosswind loading, so it's actually easier to line up.
It's possible. It's back to the right, and you passed it a couple times. If you're looking through the opening of the a little bit more to the right, there you go.
There we go. Thank you. I know what I'm doing. Trust me. So yeah, it looks nice and neat here with the concrete all finished off over here, especially. And there's your little barriers there to hide the messy tank farm behind it. Make it look pretty. Okay, moving on. The amenities block, they've stripped a lot of the boxing around the front, but not underneath yet by the look of it. There's a ground shot of that as well. Some patience, please. Where is it? So many photos, it's amazing. Here we go. We've cleared all the boxing, all the formwork and the supports from this side, but still not from underneath. I didn't think there was so much timber, but the aerial shows there's lots of timber still up here and in underneath, which that'll all be cleared out very soon. Okay, I might just go through them in their order now. It's been a fair bit of work. Like, there was some work on this SQD. We'll look at that in a minute. Otherwise, everything. And they did a test. They did a water deluge test a day or two ago as well. So it's funny. They seem to get more and more ready for launch. Then they'll destack, and there's still a lot of things on the job site that need to be removed, like that, and all this stuff. There's still a lot of clearing out still before a launch. So it looks like we're still a week or two away from launch at least.
Can you zoom in on that trailer, Stephanie, that you pointed out?
It's been there for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Here's a shot. We can see they've filled behind these blast plates with concrete. We can actually see it in this photo. So the concrete below all these steel plates now. So that's pretty dang sturdy.
Yeah, they shouldn't have a lot of damage to the concrete there anymore with those steel plates in place. So I wonder if a majority of the damage was just due to the immense heating causing the concrete to, I forget the exact word. I know Zach said it the other day. I think it starts with an S, but essentially spalling. Yep, there we go. Essentially, it just kind of like cracks off in these like circular like chips essentially. So that's what was happening to the concrete base. So with the steel up there, I don't imagine it'll get eroded away like you would see, like maybe on the top of the launch mount, but it'll at least deflect a lot of the heat away from the concrete. So that'll be a nice addition for the next launch.
Oh, here's ship 28's on the ground now. Very good. Okay, and the work continues on. I'll get around to there in a minute. What's going on down here? They've almost finished the shield, the nice insulation on here.
They did fill in the gaps on the wall, the corners, so they have the concrete now placed within all of those the vertical precast wall sections, as well as the corners are formed up. So there's no more cracks kind of between those sections. But should be nice for the next launch, deflecting a lot more of those sound waves, as well as a good bit higher, so it should protect the equipment behind it a lot more as well. And yeah, they do have the rebar then down here at the bottom, so they at least intend to pour some concrete down here in this area, but I imagine that's not high on the priority list.
And that'll be the same kind of concrete they put here just to stop erosion. It's not actually tied to the wall.
Yep.
It's just to stop erosion like this area here. And nothing's changed with this pad. It's still just being poured. We've got some good ground shots of that area as well. Some more commodities arriving. Well, that's a nice shot of the ship. It's a good angle for the light. We can see here on that house building all the supports have been taken away for the formwork. Still nothing happening here with these conduits down here. Not sure what's going to happen with them. And just for change, there's no concrete being cut up this week. It's a good sign.
Yep, they replaced the little zigzag they've got over there, and we'll see after the next launch, I guess, what areas develop more cracks.
Wow, there's a good shot down.
Yeah, Mauricio got quite a few of these. This top-down view of the lock side, and he also got one of the methane side. So shows a lot of detail, a lot of cool detail.
So one detail I noticed, even from last week's you went here in the chat, is those. We were looking for one of these valves in this section just here, and there doesn't seem to be any.
Nope. Yeah, that section is straight for the ship. So the ship can either operate on one of the LOX pumps, or technically two if they can divert 2 for the ship or 3 for the booster, or technically they could use 4 for the booster and 1 for the ship.
Yep, quite a bit of flexibility there. And the methane side too, it's showing a really good shot because there's a bit of new work in amongst here. Like there's this plant here that's not getting used at the moment, but this little area here was modified as well. And it's probably to do with the ship and booster thing as well, so they can use this pump for the ship. That means there'd have to be some valves in here too, I guess.
Yep, they're blue on this side. So this is essentially the same as the LOX side. They can technically do 2 or 3 for the booster, and 1 or 2 for the ship. So
it's interesting they changed it to ship and booster systems like this, but I guess that does make a lot of sense, doesn't it?
yeah, I think they just wanted a little more control over, I guess, which vehicle is getting propellant, at what rate, because now with all those different valves, they can control a lot of that. So I think the first launch, the ship filled up before the booster was completely full, and they may want to pace those a little bit closer so that the valves will allow them to kind of switch out the flow rates and hopefully match them a little bit better. Waiting for a successful wet dress rehearsal, and that might give us an idea of, the fill rate that they're targeting for both of the vehicles.
Exactly. Oh wow, I've got some really nice straight down shots. So they've got their pump here because they've done the water deluge. I guess we'll be looking for more MVAC trucks to fill him back up again. Fill her up, mate. Oh, there's a nice broad shot. Well done. It's awesome photos. Very, very good. So still no indication of tower location or any kind of land reclaiming yet. So I'm still putting my guesses that it's going to go here still. But anyway, guess we'll find out sooner or later.
Still wondering when they're going to get rid of that little wall. I mean, they may not. Little wall kind of, yeah, right where you're, because I believe that's one of the areas that they are collecting water in. So they may not actually get rid of that wall. But I guess we'll have to see what they do there.
If they do get rid of that wall, it looks like the water runs down here and makes a mess. So it might be a good idea to keep it there. The water does collect there. I don't know if there's any way for the water to get out down to the flats like this one here can drain out this little outlet down here. So I'm wondering how that little area drains away. But they just let it drain down there slowly.
They may just let it evaporate, to be honest, because it doesn't look like it's collected, I guess, a whole lot right now. They might just let it evaporate.
We'll get around to the front side, hang on. So morning photos here, so to get the photos ready for us to do this live stream. These were taken this morning. Okay, front side. Oh, it's a bit shadowy. I'll go to the ground shots for this side of the tank farm. Yeah, I might switch over to ground photos. There's some good ground photos of that whole side.
Just while Stephanie does that, I want to make a quick correction. I did mention there was a road closure on Monday. Monday is in fact a holiday. The road closure is on Tuesday, so my apologies about that.
Thank you. So pump 3 was replaced. I took the motor off, pulled the pump out, put a pump in, put the motor back on. So the pipe stands, there's still 2 more pipe stands here. Still haven't been put in. Just a couple of weeks ago, aerial photos, we noticed that they've put the concrete pads down for them, but they haven't actually put the tank stands on yet. And they've started to lay pipe work along here. It's cryo pipe work along here. And this silly bendy pipe still.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of lightweight pipe so far is what they've put up there.
So the trench here has been filled in. Hopper. And this rack here, I was a bit confused, but this is just a rack for staging pipe work. It's not actually anything going there right now. So this is some of the pipe work. Now, I believe this is too small to be delivery, so maybe for something else, perhaps filling or something.
Yeah, I think that's possibly the gas, maybe vapor, to go back into the tanks for those new ones, maybe. I suppose it could be fill as well.
No, that makes sense to have them running to because the gas generators are wherever they're going to be. It's more around the back, though, isn't it? Really.
Might have to track those lines and see where they end up on the other side.
So some bigger lines here to go in, maybe more to do with delivery. It's strange though, delivery pipes on the existing system are significantly larger than any pipes I've seen just here at the moment. So I guess we're going to see some more, much bigger pipes from the tanks to deliver the commodities to the two sets of pumps.
Yeah, the main fill drain valve for the tanks is usually the larger. That way they can get the best flow rate when they're trying to actually fuel a vehicle. The feed lines, when they're kind of offloading from the cryo tankers, those are usually a lot smaller because there's not a huge flow rate requirement for that. So they don't need a super large diameter pipe.
And they may even come like two side by side for each commodity. And we believe this pipe may be something to do with pneumatic control, supplying the high pressure gas for the pneumatic control of the actual valves pneumatically actuated. There's a photo of a manifold a bit later. Bit of plumbing coming off the sides. We've got these things sitting on the ground. I joke in show and tell the way these works is stuff goes through here and stuff goes through there and stuff's controlled by that. So there's a couple of valves in each of these setups. And we think
Definitely a cryo valve.
These go under each tank, just in the front of each tank. Is that correct?
It looks like something that possibly would go, maybe on the outlet of each tank, being kind of compact, plumbing like this. And you've got the standoff valve is meaning it's dealing with a cold liquid. So
yeah, they're definitely cryo valves. Yep, because of the big standoffs. Yep.
and there's multiple, so it would make a lot of sense that those would be for each one of the tanks.
All right, in here we can start seeing a bit of the. I thought somewhere in here. Oh, here it is. So this other smaller line, we can see some even smaller pipes coming up. Could be to do with control work. There's quite a lot in this image here. We can see flexi lines coming down, which probably join to solid pipe here and solid pipe in behind there. And they're coming over here to these main lines, so these are up on the higher rack here. The pipes we saw earlier were down on the lower racks, maybe for the gases or for refilling. So these perhaps are the supply pipes to the actual tank farms, which look significantly bigger. We've even got some hand manual control valves here, which is you wouldn't want to play with them while there's cryogenics going on, I guess. Now there's a little change up on the ship here. Was it this photo? One of these photos shows it. It's not that one. Hang on, give me a sec, I'll find it.
We can kind of see that new pipe there, but it's need more resolution to fully understand what it is.
Here, this photo shows it. So we've got the old plexi line still plugged in. I think Ryan, this was just after the first cryo test, is that right? I mean, the first wet dress rehearsal recently.
Yeah, I believe I didn't follow the development of this pipe all that closely, but I believe that it was added either after the first wet dress rehearsal or in the days kind of surrounding that. Um, there's been a kind of a number of changes on the SQD since the last launch, and this is one of them. I'm not sure if we have any better photos, but the pipe that is kind of vertical in this image is one of those pipes that we could see from that other angle previously. Yeah, so right there. Um, and it's not actually connected to anything on the bottom. It looks like it just opens up and dumps, which from this angle I'm actually seeing looks like there's almost like a sensor with like a little wire plugged in, near the bottom. Yeah, right there. So I'm wondering if that is any sort of a sensor possibly, but we believe that this might be some sort of like a pressure regulator or a valve. So they may be doing some venting and just trying to dump that pressure overboard instead. Not entirely sure what it would be connected to. I mean, there's a number of things that could be venting, up here on the ship, but um, it could be related to potential boil off in the line. So yeah, you can actually see the outlet right there. Looks like it's on a little like 45 fitting that kicks it away from the ship. And then yeah, there's a little could be like a temperature sensor or maybe a pressure sensor, downstream right there. But yeah, you have that main block that's up above. So there's a kind of a bendy line that comes from inside the mess of the the ship QD, and it enters into the side of here. And it's not entirely clear if that's like um, a regulator or if it's just a pressure operated valve. So it could be a situation where pressure builds up inside of the bendy line, and then that valve has maybe a spring loaded like diaphragm inside of it that would open up once the pressure gets to a certain limit. It could also be electronically operated, not entirely sure. But they're clearly trying to vent something, and I believe this was worked on very recently. So it could potentially be part of the systems that resulted in the aborted wet dress rehearsal, but that's highly speculative.
And the first wet dress rehearsal, there was some kind of leak over here somewhere, was it?
Yeah, it was somewhere just behind those almost scorched metal pieces. So it's going to be in amongst all the spaghetti behind that.
Yeah, they don't get 10 points for tidiness here, do they?
Because I believe they had some pipes that were just venting right there near that location, but I'm having trouble seeing the pipes now, so I think they may have moved them. That might have been some of the work that they did overnight after the first wet dress rehearsal.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan, for that. We'll quickly go through some questions and donations, please, Joe.
I want to thank James L. for a $5 super chat and a question. So when in March do you think they will launch?
That's a good question. We really don't know. We'll see a lot of indicators leading up to launch, including everything cleared from the site like that and all this stuff being cleared. Of course, we've got to see the ship get a static fire. Now, Ryan, with the static fire, what's the go with the vacuum engines with their the bracing for the vacuum engines?
Yeah, so the Raptor vacuum engines, they basically have they're two like half circle braces that they then bolt around the nozzle, and then they actually have some parts on the suborbital stand that grabs onto those. So when they operate those nozzles at sea level, it stabilizes them so they don't rattle around and you end up with potentially damaging effects. So that's what they do when they fire those on the suborbital stand. Now, we know that the ship does not currently have those. I believe they're red, and they say like remove before flight or something on them. We know that it doesn't have those currently. It doesn't mean that they won't put them back on to potentially do a static fire. But there is also the question of, do they need a static fire, or could they, for instance, just do like a spin prime? Could they do, just igniter test and a spin prime? It's unclear if, they actually need to do a static fire, since they have static fired the vehicle. So we'll just have to kind of see what they end up doing over there. I'm still 50-50 on the static fire, but I think we'll have an indication, because Ship 28 still needs to have its decal put on if they're going to continue that trend. So I think we'll have a pretty good idea when they're getting close to launch, if they apply the decal at the launch site, or if they roll it back to the build site and do it there. So I believe there's still some tile work that they need to do, and the decal at the very least.
And the booster's had its static fire. It should be ready to launch.
Yeah, I believe the booster is in good shape. I don't foresee them needing to remove it, unless there's potentially some issues with the GSE that they want to test by itself without a booster. So we'll have to keep our eyes open here this next week to see if they pull the booster off or not. That might give us an indication where the potential situations that caused the wet dress rehearsal abort, if it was related to the vehicles or maybe the GSE.
Thank you. Any more questions, Joe?
Indeed. Been a lot of questions regarding the altitude of today's flight, and JK Video asks, is RGV still required to fly above 10,000 feet?
Yeah. If they can fly outside. We can fly outside the TFR, and it's about 4,000 feet, I think. Today's photos. There is still a TFR. Sometimes they're allowed to go a little bit below it, depending on the air traffic control and the pilot. But I think you'll find these photos are actually outside the TFR laterally.
All right, and then Toaster Tip is asking, do we think there may be a chance of the concrete walls falling like dominoes because of the sound waves of a launch?
I'll pass that one over to Ryan.
I don't think so. I think those precast concrete walls, those things are pretty solid. I don't think the sound waves are going to cause those to tip over or anything like that. They would probably be just as heavy and structurally rigid as the HESCO barriers that they had before in that same location. So the only benefit that these have is that they are taller, so they're going to deflect the sound waves away from the utility bunker and the tank farm on that side. So I don't think they're going to fall over. They've got them tied into the concrete pretty good on the backside, and those things just by themselves are quite heavy. I don't think you're tipping those over with sound waves. A lot of times, a lot of machinery can't even move those big ground machinery. So they're pretty heavy. You'd need probably a lot of force to tip those over, especially with they're tied in the way that they are now.
Agreed. And I've got a final question. I know we touched on it a little bit, but Crane Man was asking for a little bit more detail on the connections to the 9 new tanks.
From the ground photos, we saw what was going on there. They're still not hard. Where is the photo? They're not hard connected yet, but that's progressing. That work is progressing nicely over there. So we can see. I didn't know we had this photo. We can see here. Thanks for asking that question, by the way, Crane Man. We can see they're getting there with connecting here. There's nothing at the other end still. The main delivery lines here haven't gone past. Just here somewhere still, so still a lot of pipe work to be run. So they're definitely not going to be ready for IFT3, but they won't be ready. They won't be too much longer after that. And it appears for now we're only hooking up what we assume is nitrogen tanks here so far.
Yeah, I don't think these tanks will be used for IFT 3 or 4. To be honest, I think that they might take a break and commission more of the farm, because they don't want to keep this stuff from holding up launching. So they probably will wait to cut into the main tank farm, where the supply lines would hook into until probably the latest possible moment. That way they can continue doing testing and launches. So we'll see the rest of those tanks get hooked up to those lines, and then they'll do the final connection at kind of the last moment possible.
Agreed. Any more, Joe?
That's it. I think we can start our sign off. I think we're safe to call it a show.
We've got just a minute. Just give me. Let's have a quick look at the development site.
Sounds good to me.
So they'd put all the wick to bring the water up this wick system. There's a name for it, vertical wick system. And they seem to be putting gravel and the topsoils on top. And we think that means that the moisture coming up out of the ground will be eased out to the sides here, and there'll be this pipework perhaps go around the outside. With 4 minutes left, let's do our sign-offs. I'll start with Kai.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys. Hope you have a good day, night, or afternoon.
And Ryan.
Yep. Thanks for having me, guys. It's always fun to look at these photos and see the changes. And I know there's going to be a lot of interesting things in the next couple of weeks developing around the flame trench that's developing at Massey's. So it'll be exciting to see all those changes.
And I'll sign off now too, and thank you for joining us today. And we'll thank Emlyn in the background for pushing the knobs and turning the buttons, however that goes. And thanks for joining us, and good day from Australia, and see you next week. Off to you, Joe.
Agreed. Thanks, Emlyn, for turning the knobs and pushing the buttons. Indeed. Thanks, RGV team, for the awesome, most recent photos. Thanks, Ryan and Kai, for your time and expertise. Thanks, Stephanie, for driving. You as well. And I think that pretty well covers it. We'll see you next week. Most engines cut off. Hot staging confirmed. Love you. Bye.